Y bien, excelente y feliz miércoles. ¿Cómo están todos?
Bien.
Bien, bien, bastante bien. Ok, me gusta, sí. Aquí sí, mucho mejor, much better. Ah, vamos a practicar con sus ejemplos de, del uso de verbos modales. We're gonna do some examples with your modal verbs, and we'll talk about the ones we kind of left dangling. But the main ones today, where we'll get your examples, are ir, querer, soler. Ir, querer, soler. I have left deber and saber for today for a little more explanation. One of them needs really very little explanation. The other one requires a little bit more. So this, I think, will be the last class we do on modal verbs specifically. And then we're going to get into that little video that you had for listening, which was a really unusual thing. She's a very artsy person. Um, and what I do want to know is whether or not you need a little walkthrough on that 6-minute video because she speaks a little faster. The finding the apartment thing. Would it be helpful for me to go through that as a little walkthrough? Because it's only a 6-minute video and we don't need to like analyze every single thing. But in case you like missed the drift, I didn't catch her drift of what she was getting at. She is,
Marilyn.
yeah, see,
Also, if I don't know if anybody else felt this way or not, but the end part of the modal video where they had the conversation, some of the stuff that was in there, like I know it's a
oh,
chunk and the words,
the
but
examples.
yeah, whenever she was doing the
So you
conversation
want me to check
part of
that
it,
out for you? Okay,
yeah, if you could just look at that, because there was
that
some
example
things
segment.
that, yeah.
Okay, sure. We can do that.
Yeah, and I had a question on that video too, although I think
Oh,
I know the answer, but I just want to confirm my answer. So,
okay. Bien, bien, bien. Okay, great. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you very much. We'll make sure that we leave some time for that as well. Fantástico. Entonces, ah, vamos a ver. Perdón, tengo que arreglar aquí el aspecto. For people who are watching later, I need to change my Zoom view so that people can see everything adequately when they watch later on. Okay, aquí vamos. And the modal verb video covered all of these. We are leaving saber and deber for explanation today. Saber needs virtually no explanation because most people get that right away, but deber has some nuances to it, which will just show you what those are. I don't think we need to really plug that in as here you need to practice unless people want to do it, but we're going for the things that are more and more common, which are ir, querer, soler. Ok. Y los ejemplos son que ir a, right? If you're going to combine it with a second verb, you need to do that. And you may not need to do that because ir, of course, is always used to talk about going to a place as well as going to do something. So that works both alone and with a second verb. Um, Ir a with an infinitive means something will happen. It's the way we, in conversational Spanish, talk about future events, things that will happen. Okay? So presente, present, is frequent. Uh, if we put it into imperfecto with that ir a, infinitive, then it means somebody was going to do something. So
Marilyn,
just so you know
are,
that, see,
are I'm seeing like a black square.
oh, okay,
Sí,
let's try again.
a mí también.
Oh, igual. Mejor? Better?
Sí,
Sí.
Bien, okay. So the thing we want to make sure of is if you want to say, if you want to be plugged into the meaning of, we were going to leave at 8. It would not be pretérito of fuimos a salir a las 8, right? If you want to say we were going to, it needs to be the iba a. Íbamos a salir a las 8. We were going to leave at 8. Okay. If that is the meaning you want, you need to use it as the iba, right? You're going to use pretérito a lot, but just to say that people went places. We don't, as a general rule, combine pretérito with the a and the infinitive. Okay, that's the job for the imperfecto. Okay, querer doesn't need that little word a when you tag on a second verb, an infinitive. But probably the two most common things you'll use here will be presente, quiero, and imperfecto, quería. Somebody wanted to do something. Those will be the most common. And then soler.
Marilyn,
Sí.
oh, I had a question about
Uh-huh.
querer. When should you use, if you want to use the conditional form, so you quisiera, is that right? Quisiera? And then when do you use that as opposed to gustaría? Which sounds, they both sound like I would like to do something.
Ah, yes. Okay. So what's the difference between using those two?
Yes,
Gustaría and quisiera.
yes.
Okay. Bien. Sí. Te puedo explicar. I can explain that to you. So, quisiera, and you know what? Let me put this up because sometimes visually it's tough for us to visualize that unless we can see it on the screen. Es un poquito mejor. Okay. A ver, aquí. Por ejemplo, so Kathleen's question is about this quisiera word. The quisiera plus an infinitive. Quisiera is used in very polite, formal circumstances to be super polite. Ok, un ejemplo. Uh, si necesito, por ejemplo, ayuda en un banco, if I need help at a bank, that's a formal situation. And I might, especially if I really want to be kind of goody two shoes about it and make sure the person thinks I'm being very deferential to them and their time and helping me, I might say, quisiera, quisiera entender. Quisiera entender algo con mi cuenta. I would like to understand something with my account. You know, you need information about something that doesn't look right. Quisiera entender. I would like to understand. Um, and you can even combine it with a thing, like quisiera su ayuda. I would like your help. So you can use it by itself or with an infinitive. And it's informal situations. So I would say in a business setting. Some people say in restaurants, but I think in most restaurants, as most of us tend to eat in more informal situations, quisiera sounds a little too formal, almost a little stuffy. It's not wrong, but I would say in a restaurant setting, boy, it better be a kind of a very fancy restaurant, a very expensive restaurant. But in business situations, in work situations, quisiera could come up. Okay,
So in the restaurant situation, you would just use me gustaría un café or something like that.
quisiera un café. I would like a coffee is kind of like more formal than you really need. If you're in, I'm trying to think of a place that's, hmm, you're in a restaurant, a five-star restaurant with super expensive linens and quisiera is great, okay, because you're paying a big bill. But quisiera, when you're talking to a boss, quisiera when you are requesting help out of the bureaucracy who really likes people to be deferential to them, to show that you respect them, that they're just not some flunky working for the government. Yeah. Quisiera can get you brownie points if you're in a formal situation like that. But, if you want to say that you would like help with something, see, uh, this idea of me gustaría plus a verb. Me
I have a
gustaría y verbo
question.
kind of fills the same space, but it's not uh, it's not like super formal. It's
Okay,
used more commonly. So and I'll get to your question in a second,
sure.
So these can kind of occupy the same space of being somewhat more polite, requesting, but with me gustaría, you really need a verb. Really, they don't use me gustaría with a noun. So even though me gustaría does mean I would like, we don't use it when ordering unless it's paired with a verb. And I'll give you an example like that. In English, we tend to say I would like, which sounds like me gustaría, which is me gustaría. But in English, where you would say I would like a coffee, it sounds very weird to them if you say me gustaría un café. It just sounds wrong. Why? Well, just because they don't use it that way. If you paired it with a verb, then it's okay. So, me gustaría un café is sounds off to them, but me gustaría tomar un café. I would like to drink a coffee. That is okay. All right. And that is again, me gustaría. The conditional is always seen as a more polite way of expressing things. This is important, especially in Mexico. It is very favored to be kind of beat around the bush, be formal, be super polite. So, me gustaría pedir algo, por favor. I would like to order something, please. Okay. Me gustaría ver ese producto. I would like to see that product because they have to take it out of a display shelf, like that. That's okay. Me gustaría ver. Me gustaría tomar. Me gustaría pedir, order. See? So me gustaría with a verb is okay. And I guess you could say it's a modal verb. Does it fit in that category? Yeah, I would say it does. Yeah. Does that explain your question?
Yes,
See,
yes, thank
okay.
you.
So quisiera in a formal business, or you're dealing with a bureaucracy, you're dealing with somebody in a business setting, then it's great, right? Quisiera. Otherwise, I don't want to say snooty, but like more formal than you need to be. Yeah. Um, the me gustaría is more polite, but we pair that with a verb. Yeah, not with like a food request, but a verb. And if you pair the verb with a food thing, then that's okay. Yeah. Me gustaría probar, me gustaría probar el mejor pescado de esta zona. I would like to try the best fish of this area. Sometimes you're in an area where they got like special stuff that comes in fresh that day. You want the freshest fish they've got. And I would like to try is me gustaría probar. I would like to try. Me gustaría probar el mejor pescado de esta zona, the best fish of this area, when they get a specialty. Does that fill the bill?
Sí. Ujú.
Bien, bien, perfecto. Okay, and I heard another question.
Yes,
Sorry,
I had
sí.
one. So why was it quisiera is past subjunctive, correct? But we were using gustaría in conditional. Why was
Yes.
it past subjunctive, not quería?
Past subjunctive is uh, uh, past subjunctive with quisiera is seen as thank you for your help. Please do something for me. It's just extremely formal. It's used as an extremely formal request. That's all I can tell you.
So
Why? I can't tell you.
when would you use the conditional tense then with quería?
Uh, you could use it in a similar situation. Y si querría saber, I would like to know, and that's kind of you're asking it politely. I would like to know. Querría saber. I would want to know. Yeah. Uh, Conditional is probability, but conditional is in some situations. Okay, same thing with poder. If we want to step back a little bit to this poder, and I'm going to actually do that. This podría is a similar kind of situation. Yeah. Uh, hmm. Ah, mi amigo tiene mucho tiempo libre los jueves. My buddy has a lot of free time on Thursdays, and it isn't Thursday yet, right? Nos podría ayudar mañana. He could help us tomorrow. It's hypothetical because tomorrow is Thursday. Okay? See, that's one use of podría. Again, it's that conditional, this time with poder, which is a common thing to hear. Also, however, that podría as a modal verb can be a polite way because conditional is seen as a way to ask things politely, of asking in a more polite, more formal way, could you help me? ¿Me podrías ayudar, por favor? Could you help me? Uh, so conditional has kind of two jobs. It's got that hypothetical. Él nos podría ayudar mañana. He could help us tomorrow. Thinking hypothetically, he could do that. It would be possible. The podría can also be a more polite, seen as more polite. It has this polite thing that, use. Uh, um, and again, it's all in context. Because if you're standing in a store asking somebody to help you, ¿me podrías ayudar? Could you help me? They know you're being somewhat more respectful, let's say, asking for help without being like super stuffy. The conditional is never seen as a stuffy or kind of snooty way of being polite. It's just being considerate of somebody's time. It's a use they do. It's what they do. Okay. See? Bien? Okay. Uh, and the very, very last review before we get to your uses, your examples, los ejemplos. Aquí. Bien. Es soler. That soler, it doesn't really translate well because to usually is not a verb. It's not an action. But that is what we say in English. And so soler talks about essentially frequency being an issue with an activity, right? So en presente, but you're really going to hear it not in it can be conjugated in all those other forms, but the way you're likely to hear it is going to be present right now or past, and you're not going to hear it future, right? Because somebody isn't going to usually, right? The purpose of this verb is to say frequency, which means right now as a habit, presente, or in the past, which is going to be imperfecto. And that'll be imperfecto because if you usually did something, it means there was repetition. So pretérito kind of goes out the window with this verb because repetition usually means repetition and express repetition in the past we need imperfecto. So there is a reason you're really only going to hear this in two forms as a form of I mean, just as this is the way you're going to hear it. It's the way, right? Suelo caminar por la mañana. I usually walk in the morning, talking about my habit as it is on most days. So presente or solía caminar por la mañana. I used to walk in the morning. Maybe my habit has changed. Maybe I threw out my back and I can't do it right now, but I used to do it when I was feeling better, right? Imperfecto, el pasado for the past, o presente aquí, para hábitos, ¿sí? Para rutina, para expresar la rutina, bien. Okay, so we're looking at ir, uh, uh, ir, soler, and querer. Sus ejemplos. Okay, mis ejemplos primero, my examples first, so that you can hear my examples and then maybe do a switch. Uh, ir, ir. Ir. Voy a cocinar, voy a cocinar voy a cocinar algo muy especial para mi esposo esta noche. ¿Sí? Voy a. O, por ejemplo, aquí, ah, íbamos a reunirnos el domingo, pero, ah, mm, pero no hacía buen tiempo. We were going to get together on Sunday, but it was bad weather. ¿Sí? ¿Ok? Bien. Con ir, con querer. Querer, quiero ayudarles con sus preguntas. I'm going to help you with your questions. Quería, quería hacer una cita con, ah, quería hacer una cita ah, para la terapia. I wanted to make a therapy appointment. Sí, quería hacer una cita. I wanted to make an appointment, right? Para soler, sí. Solemos hacer ejercicio los domingos por la mañana. We usually exercise Sunday mornings. O solíamos, solíamos tener clase los miércoles. We used to have classes on Wednesday. Ok, vale. Sus ejemplos. Un voluntario aquí. Volunteer with, ok, Kathleen, sí.
Now, do you want all three of my sentences or just one?
Sí, los tres, sí,
Oh,
claro.
los tres. Okay. Esta mañana va a nadar, pero hacía demasiado frío.
Iba a ir, I was going to go.
Oh,
We,
iba a ir. Okay.
o iba a, dos cosas. Iba a ir, which sounds kind of weird because but that's voy a ir, I'm going to go, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
Iba a ir, o iba a nadar. You can cut it
Iba a
short.
nadar.
Iba
Okay.
a nadar, I was going to swim. Sí, bien, ok, vale.
Um, Quería tener un descapotable.
De,
That's a convertible.
sí, 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 ok,
I would
sí.
like to have a convertible. I
Always,
think that's what I'm
I
saying.
always wanted that. Yeah, un sueño de mi juventud, a dream of my youth.
Sí.
Sí, bien.
Y solía trabajar en el jardín todos los días, lloviera o hiciera sol.
Ok, bien, bien. Perfecto, perfecto. Muy bien. Buenos ejemplos, muy buenos ejemplos. ¿Alguien más? Gracias, gracias, Kathleen. ¿Alguien más? Somebody else? Sí, Lori.
Um, si no querías cortar césped, yeah, let me start again. Si no querías cortar césped, debiste comprar un condo, no una casa.
Ajá, sí. Si no querías mantener el patio, ¿sí? Entonces debería de comprar un condominio. Me gusta, sí. Bien, continúa.
Yo iba a ir de compras ayer, pero estaba demasiado ocupada.
Ok, sí. Bien.
And,
I was too busy.
and demasiada and ocupada. That's the correct endings for both of those for me.
Demasiado ocupada.
Ending in A.
Demasiado
Oh,
ocupada. That demasiado word is a little, okay, it's a minor hang up. Somebody wouldn't misunderstand you, but demasiado can have a feminine form, but in that case, demasiado is actually modifying ocupada. Ocupada definitely needs to be feminine if you're talking, I was busy. Estaba ocupada, right? But too busy, the too is looking at the busy word. And the too just stays demasiado. It's acting as an adverb, like you
okay.
care, right? But
I know when
okay.
it's an adverb versus adjective, but yeah.
Yeah.
Mr.
So
Coleman would be very disappointed in me on
está bien. It's okay.
diagramming a
So
sentence.
here's where demasiada will go into a feminine form if it's talking about a thing. When demasiado is talking about a description, it stays demasiado, right? When
Okay,
demasiado is talking about an action, it stays demasiado, right? Okay, okay. Ejemplos. Por ejemplo, em, estás demasiado preocupada. You're too worried. ¿Sí? Ok. O ah, mi pobre hijo trabaja demasiado. My poor kid works too much. If it's talking about working, the verb working, demasiado. If it's talking about worried, a state, a description, demasiado ocupada o preocupada. ¿Ok? Bien. But, por ejemplo, we have too much food. Yeah. That time you laid out a spread for everybody coming and you realized I overdid it, right? Now it's talking about comida, food, a thing, which is la comida. So tenemos demasiada comida. We have too much food. Okay? Little side note, but that's just that demasiado word.
that's
Okay.
helpful.
Bien,
Thank you.
bien. Continúas. Continue.
Suelo leer o escuchar español casi cada día.
Bien, bien. Okay.
El fin.
Buenos ejemplos, buenos ejemplos. Muchísimas gracias. Okay, ¿quién más? Who else has some examples they would like to share with us? Anybody? ¿Alguien? Okay, Carrie, dinos, tell us.
So, okay. Iba a viajar a Vancouver esta semana, pero mi esposo tenía problemas salud, así que no iba.
Okay,
Él está bien ahora.
Ah, bueno, me alegro, me alegro.
Mhm. Now I didn't find one because I gave her all these in an email, but when I was going to Vancouver. But now I want to say, so I'm quisiéramos viajar en el futuro, but again, that would be maybe too formal.
Ah, quisiéramos viajar. We would like to travel. Depende del contexto. It depends. It depends. See?
Okay. Yeah.
Depends on who you're talking to in what setting.
Mhm.
If I were setting up a vacation slot in the schedule with my boss, quisiéramos would be great. See?
Mhm.
If you're just talking with your buddies, your friends, querríamos, that conditional would be maybe a little more natural.
So would it be nos gustaría?
Nos gustaría viajar. Yeah, that would be very conversational, very natural. Nos gustaría viajar. We would like to travel.
Okay.
Sí,
I en el futuro.
sí, sí.
And I didn't come up with one. Maybe I'll come up with one for Solaire. I did.
Ok, está
I knew
bien,
one. I
está
knew
bien,
one for Solaire.
está bien. That's okay. It's okay. Bien, sí. Ok. O, por ejemplo, cuando hablo con mi hermana, solemos hablar de sus problemas físicos. Ja, ja, ja. Cuando hablo con mi hermana, solemos hablar de sus problemas, sus pequeños problemas. Sí. A ella le gusta quejar mucho. Le gusta quejarse mucho. Ok, bien, bien. Bien, perfecto. Jen, ¿tienes algo o no?
Sí.
Bien.
Ah, quería terminar mi pintura, pero no tenía suficiente suministros.
Ok, bien.
Habría ido a la tienda, pero era demasiado tarde.
Ok, sí. It was too late. I would have gone.
Salía almuerzo a las una.
Bien. A la una.
A la una.
A la una. A la
Okay.
una. Bien. At one. Yeah. That's the only timestamp that won't get a less. That's the only solo hour of the day. Sí. A la una. Bien. Bien. Ok. Vale. Bueno. ah, hay otros ejemplos. Creo que no. I think we've gone through everybody. Sí. Bien. Vale. Okay. I want to make some time for the questions you had on the modal verb segment. And I think this is probably the good way for us to fit in. And I want to see where I can pick up. Okay, I think I've got it to the example segment. Vamos a ver. Let's see. Because I'm not quite sure where you might have had a question. Okay. Pueden ver si Maura tiene el cabello azul. She's got that, la peluca, she's got that wig. La peluca azul. Okay. Is this the segment? Somebody give me a call
Yes,
out. Is this a segment where there were questions?
yes.
Con los ejemplos. Okay. I want to make sure I turn on because sometimes she talks a little bit fast, probably for comfort level. So. Tú sueles llamar a tus padres. You usually call your parents. Okay. Vamos. Ah,
Te daremos las opciones para que pienses cuál es el mejor modal para
We'll give you the options so that you can think about what's the best modal verb.
completar la oración. ¿Qué? No te puedo,
Oh,
debo, suelo creer.
and they want you to choose out of puedo, debo, suelo. And sometimes some of these examples might be lacking in enough context for you, I'll be honest. Because once in a while, I find when they do these examples, they've got an idea in mind, but maybe the context isn't enough. And that que is kind of, you can see all the, it's like a, huh? Que? What? It's meant to express like shock or surprise.
¿Qué? No te puedo creer.
Yeah. That que is supposed to be your great big context clue that I'm in shock. What? I cannot believe it. I cannot believe you. That makes the most sense. Okay.
Pues sí, se casan mañana. Es
Oh, they're getting married tomorrow.
una locura.
It's crazy.
¿Tú quieres, sueles, puedes verles juntos al menos?
So they are expressing that these people are getting married, and it's like, you're kidding me. It would be like saying two people that met yesterday are getting married now. That kind of shock level. Okay.
The juntos al menos, like together at least.
Yeah. Can you at least, yeah.
Pues sí, se casan mañana. Es una locura. ¿Tú sueles verles juntos al menos?
Do you usually see them like as a couple? That's kind of the implication. That one would have been tough. I would have thought, puedes would make sense there too. But, they're kind of interpreting here.
No, yo ni
Oh, no, wait. I'm sorry. There, the implication was, do you usually see them together? Okay. So the point was, nobody ever saw these people like going out together. They never saw them like dating as a couple. I was trying to think back to the scenario they're setting up. They're setting up the scenario of like these two people getting married. And it's like, I didn't even know they were dating, that kind of situation. I had to get my mental set up with that. We didn't even usually see them together, at least.
sabía que estaban saliendo.
And here is the context clue that really helps you, which is kind of sad because it's coming after the question. But yo ni sabía que estaban saliendo. I didn't even know that they were going out. I didn't even know they were dating.
Hay que preguntarle a alguien.
I gotta ask somebody.
Suelo, sé, quiero entender cómo pasó. No, yo ni sabía que estaban saliendo. Hay que preguntarle a alguien. Quiero entender cómo pasó.
I want to know how this happened. So the context is there, somebody's got to ask somebody what was going down with this situation. These people, we didn't even think they were dating, and now they're getting married. What? Yeah. So everything is in the context of this rolling story. I want to understand how this happened.
Estamos pasadas de chismosas, pero yo te apoyo. Queremos, debemos, podemos preguntarle a Mauricio. Él siempre sabe todo. Estamos pasadas de chismosas.
Yeah, we're past the whole gossip stage with this, but I can help you.
Pero yo te apoyo. Podemos preguntarle a Mauricio. Él siempre sabe todo.
We can ask Mauricio. We're thinking of who in our friend group might have any clue as to how this marriage is coming off. Okay, Mauricio's the guy who probably knows. We can ask Mauricio. Él siempre sabe todo. He always knows everything.
Question
Buena
about
idea.
the pero yo te
Apoyo.
Apoyo.
Apoyo
I
means
thought that was like to support,
it does.
like
So
emotionally.
it can be support emotionally. It can be apoyo, support financially. It can be in a very casual thing, meaning of like back you up. Yeah, te apoyo. Like in the sense of ayudo, I'll help. And that's how they were using it there. That's a minor thing.
¿Puedes, sueles, sabes llamarlo tú? ¿O quieres que lo llame yo?
Yeah, okay. And now we're talking about, we're switching to saying, Mauricio's the guy to ask. And we're talking about, you're going to be the one to call him, or do you want me to call him? ¿Quieres que lo llame yo? Do you want me to call him?
Buena idea. ¿Puedes llamarlo tú? ¿O quieres que lo llame yo?
Yeah. Can you call him? Because we're talking about how to get in touch with Mauricio. Can you call him, or do you want me to do it?
Yo lo llamo y te cuento.
I'll call him and I'll tell you.
No debemos, solemos, sabemos lucir desesperadas.
Oh, lucir is a very special verb. Lucir means to shine. Okay, lucir desesperadas kind of means we don't want to come off looking like we're desperate. That's what she's expressing. Lucir is a really specific, if you want somebody who is lucir, they shine, they stand out, they stick out like a sore thumb. So we don't want to look like we're totally desperate asking about this information because we don't want to admit that we didn't know that they were getting married, and we don't want to look dumb.
Yo lo llamo y te cuento. No debemos lucir desesperadas.
We shouldn't look desperate. We shouldn't make ourselves look silly for not knowing these people were going out.
Los modales tienen su propia categoría entre los verbos. Su comportamiento es bien específico. Así que continúa.
Oh, and that is the end. I hope that helps with you understanding. It was kind of a jokey situation. Yeah.
There were just some phrases that I hadn't heard or read before that just seemed
Lucir is not a verb you're going to hear a lot. Lucir is a verb that I used to read a lot when somebody would like stand out in the crowd because they had like some special outfit on and they shone like the sun. They were so, wow, they just stuck out. They stood out in the crowd. That's lucir, to stand out in the crowd. Okay. Bien. That's not a verb that you need to really know for conversational purposes. It's, yeah, something I had to know, but you don't necessarily have to know. Ah, bien. Okay. Vale. Okay. Otra pregunta. Other question? No? I have a little something I'm going to go through on the two verbs we've got left, okay, out of this modal group. And we're going to take a look at the easy one first because it's easy for us to look at, talk about, and say, enough of that. Saber is a modal verb because we can pair it up with another verb, right? Saber can also be used by itself. No lo sé. I don't know. No lo sé. S-E with an accent mark. No lo sé. I don't know. No lo sabemos. We don't know. All right. Sabemos can be used by itself. But when we pair it up with a second verb, they go right next to each other. No little preposition in between. And it just means to know how to do something. Okay. That probably isn't something that is high on my list of modal verbs, but I mean, it's good to know. So, okay, the only thing you need to know is we can pair up saber with a second verb, and it means you know how to. And the how to does not get translated as a general rule. Once in a while it does, but not most of the time. Ok, por ejemplo, no sabemos su dirección. We don't know his address. No sabemos, perdón, I need to use it with a verb. Ah, no, ah, no sabemos, no sabemos nadar. We don't know how to swim. Ah, mi hijo no sabe reparar un carro. No sabe reparar el motor de un carro. My son doesn't know how to fix an engine in a car. No sabe arreglar. He doesn't know how to fix. ¿Sí? Bien. Yo sé hablar español. I know how to speak Spanish. ¿Sí? No sé hablar alemán. I don't know how to speak German, por ejemplo. Ok. Bien. Sabemos organizar todo esto proyecto. We know how to organize this whole project. So saber with another verb, easy to use. But this deber thing can be a little bit tricky. So I'm going to show you a little video on deber. And I would say cuidado, careful only in that deber, and this is kind of a Mexico thing, I think, more than other countries. Deber, if you use it in presente, right? Debo, debes, debe, and pair it up, it has kind of a strong connotation. Deber, for Mexican folk, which is just what I hear them tell me most of the time, has almost a finger wagging kind of connotation. It comes off as kind of strong. Now, it may not be that way everywhere, but it can be. Deber with another infinitive means you should do something. So it's in that category of obligations. All right. And obligations we often use as tener que, which makes it very personal. Tenemos que ir ahorita. We need to go right now. Tenemos que ir ahora, ahorita. We need to go right away. Tengo que estudiar esta noche. I have to study tonight, right? That is obligation, and it's personal because I conjugate it for whoever has to do something. Also, not personalized, hay que, one must, meaning any old human being, anybody out there, any Tom, Dick, or Harry, right? Hay que saber, hay que saber este proceso. We need to know, you need to know this process, meaning anybody, right? And that is not conjugated for yo or tú, but it means anybody. Deber always gets conjugated for who does something, all right? And in presente is kind of a strong should do something. Uh, and it can go into other tenses. And here is where I will say again that conditional, like iría, like querría, like podría, conditional is kind of common with deber to sound polite. You really should does not, in conditional, does not necessarily come off as a finger wagging, scolding somebody over something. But in presente, it kind of can be. That's just a cultural kind of evaluation. So to help out with that, we're going to show you something about deber, because deber kind of merits its own little lesson. And they do a better job probably than I could just off the top of my head. Sometimes we combine little words with deber, so you should kind of be aware of that. I don't think this is something that we need to give you practice, but it's good to know how deber is used to talk about obligation. Okay, vamos a ver. Let's see. And I think here maybe I need my subtitles for you. And we're going to like get out of the intro and kind of dive right into the start. Okay, yeah.
First off, we learn that deber plus an infinitive shows obligation. Like Darcy said, this is when deber means either must or should.
And this is why it's kind of a finger wag. You know, it's kind of like what you expect your boss to say to you. Well, you should do this. And if he uses deber in presente in Mexico, he is not kidding. You better get off your bottom and get it done. If he uses debes with an infinitive, debes trabajar, you should work. So stop standing around the water cooler. Stop getting that cup of coffee. Get off your behind and start working. Debes trabajar. It's kind of strong. And notice should, must. That must idea is kind of strong in Mexico with deber en presente.
And this is the most common way to use deber.
When using it this way, deber expresses a moral obligation, a responsibility, or a recommendation.
Wow, a moral obligation. That's where the finger wagging comes in, okay? It's pretty strong.
Exactly. So we could say something like, you should study more.
Debes estudiar más.
So you see here that we recommend that someone should do something, and it has our structure of deber plus an infinitive. Debes
And notice no little word in between debes and the infinitive, right? Just should, obligation, you need to get this done. It's deber.
and the infinitive estudiar. Let's see another one. We must leave now.
Debemos irnos ahora.
She should call her mother.
Ella debe llamar a su mamá.
You should have told me before signing the contract.
Debiste decirme antes de firmar el contrato.
And there it's just putting that you should have done this into that pretérito. We're talking about something that was done, signing the contract, and signing something is kind of over with in a closed period of time. So pretérito works.
Okay, so that's easy enough. The only part that can get a little bit tricky is when we use deber like this in the past imperfect tense. The meaning can change from should or must to had to, like in this example. When we were kids, we had to help at home.
Cuando éramos niños, debíamos ayudar en casa.
Okay.
And so this is using imperfecto. Yeah. We had to do this stuff. When we were kids, we were talking about a habit in the past.
Okay, so as we mentioned at the start, deber used in this way can be a little bit tricky when we're talking about obligation and when we should or must do something, because there are other obligation expressions like hay que and tener que.
And so hay que and tener que are also used for the same thing, okay? For the same job.
We'll get into those a little bit later on. For now, let's see our next meaning of deber.
Now, we can also use deber to mean to owe either money or something concrete.
And this is when it is not a modal verb phrase. Deber, when it stands by itself, means that you owe money or a favor. You owe something to somebody.
This way, we have deber
Concrete.
and then a noun.
So, for example, we could say something like, I owe you $20.
Te debo $20.
So you see, we first have deber, debo, and then a noun, $20. She owes me an explanation.
Ella me debe una explicación.
So same thing
Abstract,
here. We
but
have
it's owed.
debe and then a noun, an explanation. We owe them a favor.
Abstract, but a
Nosotros
noun.
les debemos un favor.
The entrepreneurs owed the bank a lot of money.
Los emprendedores le debían mucho dinero al banco.
Next, deber can also be used to express probability or assumptions.
Wow, there is where the little word they comes in. And deber, de, and an infinitive. It's still a modal, but it's not deber plus infinitive. It's deber de with the infinitive. And if we stick that de word in there, it talks about probability.
Using the structure deber de and then an infinitive. When used this way, it expresses must be, should be, or is probably.
So this is kind of a conjecture sort of phrase. All right. And this is why I'm not going to have you practice it like you did the other verbs last week, because it's not that it isn't conversational, but you're less likely as a tourist really to need this, right? But this idea of must be or if this were logically thinking, this really should be happening. It's probability assumption.
So, for example, my husband must be tired.
Mi esposo debe de estar cansado.
And must be, he must be tired. I haven't asked him directly, but I think this is the case. It's probability. Not he should be tired, as in it's something he's got to do. He must be tired. Wow. I know he's been working all day and it's 100 degrees. Wow, he must be tired. Debe de estar cansado. You're talking about what's probably the situation.
So, in this way, using debe de estar, we're expressing that he must be, it's likely that, or he's probably tired. Let's see another one. Your in-laws are probably arriving home soon.
Tus suegros deben de llegar pronto a casa.
So here we're assuming or it's probable that they'll arrive soon. Julia must have forgotten the appointment.
Julia debe de haber olvidado la cita.
The engineer should already have left.
El ingeniero debió de salir ya. Side note, in real-life conversations, many native Spanish speakers drop the de.
So just to make it more confusing, in grammar speak, you really, if you're talking about probability or I'm supposing something, I'm assuming something, you really should have that word they. But there are people conversationally who, in the real world, just as a matter of practice, sometimes drop it. Okay, so you just kind of have to be prepared for picking up that nuance from context.
Instead
That's
of
why you're
hearing,
not going to
Mi
practice it.
esposo debe de estar cansado, you might hear mi esposo debe estar cansado.
So even though you really should have that word they, and some native speakers do just because they feel like it, because they feel like dropping it. They just sometimes do drop the word they.
Next, we can also use deber in the conditional tense
Here
when we
comes
want to give
conditional.
advice or recommendations in a bit of a softer tone or in more of a polite way.
And this is how you will hear sometimes, especially like maybe in a store or a business setting, when people are speaking to you, not being like in your face, debes trabajar, debes venir, you should come here, meaning I want you to get your behind here now. But, that debería, that conditional, is something that sets it up as a softer, well, you really ought to, you really should, but it's not wagging your finger at somebody. So conditional, debería, deberías, makes that should a little soft pedal, a little more polite.
So the structure will be like debería and then an infinitive of another verb. So, for example, you should see a doctor.
Deberías ver a un médico.
So here, by using deberías instead of debes, by using that conditional form, we're suggesting or recommending that someone do something, but just doing it a little bit softer, a little bit more polite. Let's see another. We should talk in order to plan the annual community event.
Deberíamos hablar para planear el evento anual de la comunidad.
Mom, you shouldn't eat so much sugar.
Mamá,
No deberías comer tanta azúcar.
And if you're not wagging your finger at mom about her sugar consumption, it's deberías. No deberías comer. You shouldn't eat.
Maybe you should rest and finish tomorrow.
Quizá deberías descansar y terminar mañana.
So remember, in Spanish, using the conditional like this, debería, is really the safest way to give advice or tell someone what to do or request something from them because
And I would say, especially if you're traveling in Mexico, I would use debería with a verb to say you should instead of debes. No debes hacer eso. You shouldn't do that. No debes with plain old presente is pretty strong. You shouldn't do that is maybe might come off as being kind of in your face, scolding almost. Whereas no deberías, making it conditional makes it better. No deberías hacer eso. You really shouldn't do that. Is less in your face and seen as a more polite thing to
in Latin
say.
America, speakers don't often speak so bluntly or directly, especially when talking to someone in high esteem or like their boss or their parents. So it's really the safest option.
Okay, now let's look at the different ways we can show obligation in Spanish and clear up any misunderstandings.
When we want to express should, must, ought to, supposed to, or have to, we think of these expressions. But when do we really use each one? Let's look at the differences here.
We use tener que to express personal obligation.
That's when we want to say something like, I have to work tomorrow.
Tengo que trabajar mañana.
So this is something I can't get out of, it's not avoidable, it's something that I have to do. Whereas deber is used more for a recommendation or a responsibility, like you should work tomorrow.
Debes trabajar mañana.
And I would phrase that as deberías. I would really phrase that in the soft, polite, deberías trabajar. You really should work tomorrow, right? Otherwise, it's seen as having a very strong tone.
So the key thing to remember between these two is that tener que seems unavoidable, whereas deber is used more as advice or a responsibility.
And hay que expresses a general obligation when there's no subject.
So what does Darcy mean by that when there's no subject? Let's look at this example. If Darcy were to say,
Hay que hacer ejercicio.
so this means like you should exercise, but not you personally. It's more like one must or one should exercise. People must exercise. It's general. There's no subject. Whereas if we were to say,
Debes hacer ejercicio.
so we're personally advising or recommending that you should exercise. What about this one?
Hay que tener paciencia.
This is like you should have patience, but generally like one must have patience. Whereas
Debes tener paciencia.
is more like you should be patient. So now with these three, the key thing to remember is that hay que is general, it's impersonal, whereas deber and tener que are personal. But remember that deber is used for giving recommendations or advice and showing responsibility. It's not an unavoidable obligation like tener que.
Lastly, we have se supone que, meaning supposed to.
So although this one is not nearly as tricky, it still trips people up every once in a while. If you were to see these two expressions,
Se supone que llegas a las 9 and debes llegar a las 9.
how do we translate them? This one is you're supposed to arrive at 9.
Se supone que llegas a las 9.
So this expresses an expectation. But what if we say you should arrive at 9?
Debes llegar a las 9.
So this does not express an expectation like before with se supone que, but rather a piece of advice, a moral suggestion, or a sense of obligation.
Yeah, this puts debes llegar puts an expectation. It puts an obligation on somebody. Okay. It's saying that somebody has a responsibility to get there at that time. So that's the difference there. And I'm just going to leave that there. That se supone que is kind of nice to know, but you don't really need it for everyday conversation. But yeah. Okay. ¿Todo bien? All good? Bien? Okay. Vale. So those are modal verbs. I'm sure there are some others in there. You know, gustar, I would actually put in that modal verb category, probably. It makes sense. Uh, but, bien. Okay. Vale. I'm going to do a little walkthrough. Ooh, perfecto. Our time is perfect for this. I'm going to do a little walkthrough with the Inés Gato video because we've got a continuation of this coming up for your video for the coming week. And it will be longer than this one, but this is the setup for the video that you're going to watch this week. You're going to watch this coming week the actual process, what she's going through, and what that place looks like that she's actually not renting but buying. It is good for you probably to know that Gen Z people, well, millennial people too, are in economically a similar situation to almost all young people these days. There are a lot of people, and it's very customary to know, probably in Spanish culture. This gal is from Spain. There are a lot of people who live at mom and dad's house much later than that tends to happen in the United States as a general rule. A lot of that is almost entirely financial. There may be some family obligation ties in there as well. It was a very well-established habit in Spanish society that, you know, you would kind of have a big house with multiple floors and different generations would live on different floors and multiple generations would live in the same building. As used to happen really in the time of my parents, maybe for, yeah, I'm pretty old, soy anciana. But this kind of US habit of kids rushing out of the house and I'm 18, I'm 21, I'm out of here does not happen very often. And some of that is cultural, but some of it, a lot of it is a financial thing. It is very, very expensive. And we are now in the United States, we are going through a situation where a lot of our 20 and 30 somethings are having a tough time financially getting established. This is her situation. She is she is a content creator, and she is in that generational pinch of wanting to get out, but finding it tough to get out of mom and dad's house. So that's the setup. And I'm just going to do not an exact translation, but showing you what she means or what the vibe is she's giving off with that. She tries to do things very tongue in cheek. And because she is a filmmaker, not just to do things as a documentary, but to tell stories in an amusing way or to make a point or to get a theme across. That's what she does. Okay, vale. And you can see the estaba arreglándome, right? See?
It's a black square.
It's a black square, darn. Momentito, gracias. Thank you. Zoom is not helping me.
Good.
Mejor, better?
See,
Sí, okay. I was getting ready. That's what estaba arreglándome. And I know she misspelled it. Oh, well. I was getting ready. Estaba arreglándome.
Y entonces hice este sonido, lo que me recordó a las pelotas de tenis.
And I made this noise. And she's talking about just the process of how you do one thing and it leads you to something else and it leads you to something else. Here's the going down the rabbit hole. So I was getting ready and I made this noise with her mouth, see? And it reminded me of something else. recordó. It reminded me. Me recordó a. It reminded me of tennis balls. The
Y
sound.
entonces pensé que un tenista va a la pista de tenis a
And then I thought, ooh, a tennis player goes to a tennis court
jugar.
to play.
Un cocinero a la cocina.
And I thought, a cook goes into the kitchen to work, where people go to work.
Y un astronauta al espacio.
And an astronaut goes into space. Here, what all these people in different professions do.
Pero... ¿y un creador de contenido como yo?
But a content creator like me, where's my space? Where do I go? Right? I don't go to the tennis court. I don't go to the kitchen. I don't go off into space. What does a content creator? Where does this content creator go?
Y entonces me pregunté,
And I asked myself,
¿cuál es mi espacio?
where's my space? What's my space? ¿Cuál es mi espacio? What's my space? What is my space to live in, work in? What should that look like?
A menudo grabo mis vídeos en casa,
Often I film stuff at home,
que de hecho es la de mis padres.
which in fact is my parents' house.
Y no os voy a mentir, a veces
And I'm not gonna lie to you guys.
acaban hasta el gorro.
A veces acaban hasta el gorro. Sometimes they get fed up with me. Acaban hasta el gorro, they finish to the cap, but that's not what it means. A gorro is a winter hat. Sometimes they get fed up with me, taking up their personal space for my work. Oh, yeah. I'm using mom and dad's house to do my stuff for my gig. And sometimes this does not work so great for them. I get in the way. I get on their nerves. They've had it with me. Acaban hasta el gorro.
¡Tenéis al salón un momento, porfa!
Yeah, don't come in for a minute here.
Mi espacio creativo es el mismo que se usa para comer, para dormir o para...
My creative space for doing my job that I earn money at is the same one that we use to eat, to sleep, or, and she cut it off, or to take a poop. That's what that's about. That CAG is an abbreviation for cagar because she didn't want to say a kind of body function word. Okay.
Bueno, pues eso. Y fue ahí cuando llegué a la conclusión de que necesitaba un espacio que fuese solo para mí.
And that's how I came to the conclusion that I needed a space that was just for myself.
Un estudio creativo. Para encontrar
Creative
el
studio.
estudio perfecto, debía tener claras mis prioridades.
Oh, here's a debía. To find the perfect studio, I had to tener claras. I had to really keep in mind. Tener claro is to clarify something. I had to clarify, I had to set up my priorities.
El precio, que sea
Price,
asequible.
que sea, that the price is accessible.
El diseño, que sea de mi estilo.
Design, it should be in my style.
Y la libertad, que pueda ir cuando y como quiera a grabar.
And freedom so that I might be able to come and go as however I want to film, however I want to do recording.
Para obtener mi espacio creativo, tenía dos opciones.
To get my creative space, I had two options.
La primera, y más sencilla,
the first one and the easiest,
alquilar un estudio creativo.
rent a studio.
El estudio debía cumplir estas tres prioridades.
And the studio, and here we got deber. The studio had to fulfill three needs, three priorities.
Así que decidí ir a Madrid para buscar estudios creativos de alquiler.
So I decided to go to Madrid to look for studios to rent.
Lo que pasa que según arranqué, empecé a pensar en que probablemente no serían de mi estilo.
And as soon as I started on this, I started to think it wasn't really going to be my style to do this studio
El
thing.
precio no saldría rentable si quería ir muy...
And saldría would not turn out to be. The price wouldn't be profitable or suitable if I wanted to.
muchas veces
If I
y
wanted to go
habría
a bunch of
horarios, así que
times.
nada de libertad.
And it wouldn't really have fit a schedule. There wouldn't be a schedule that would give me the kind of freedom I needed.
La verdad que preferí ahorrarme ese viaje.
So, to be honest, I preferred to save myself this trip into Madrid to look for this studio that wasn't going to have like a schedule I needed and to afford me the freedom to come and go as I wanted.
Alquilar un estudio creativo por mi zona queda denegado.
Queda denegado. Wow, that's off. It's off. Denegado. It is denied. It is off the plate. This one is out of consideration.
Lo que nos lleva a la segunda.
Which takes us to, que nos lleva, which takes us to the second option. And here she's just being silly.
Buenas, soy el agente inmobiliario.
Which I guess has a commentary on avoiding real estate people. Hey, hi, I am your real estate agent.
Tengo entendido que está usted buscando piso para alquilar.
I understand. I understand that you're looking for a
Tenemos
place to
varias
rent.
opciones en pleno centro de Madrid. Pisito de 5 metros cuadrados.
We've got a bunch of options right in the middle of Madrid. Pleno centro, right in the middle. Pleno centro means right smack in the middle of Madrid.
Cama, váter y cocina en la misma habitación. Todo
Oh yeah, here are your apartments, 5 meters squared with the bed, with the bed, the bathroom, and the kitchen, all in the same room. So they're studios.
son comodidades. Seamos sinceros. Alquilar un piso es extremadamente caro y a menudo poco
Hey, yeah, let's be honest. Renting an apartment is extremely expensive
estético.
and not very aesthetically pleasing. A menudo poco estético. A menudo means often. Often it's not aesthetically pleasing.
Pero bueno, al menos cumplía lo de tener libertad.
Well, at least that would it would check off that thing about being free, having some freedom.
Pensaba que esta sería la opción definitiva.
I thought this was going to be
Hasta que un día
until one day.
se venden casas de pueblo para reformar.
And here is the trend with the young folk. Se venden casas, houses for sale, country houses for sale, de pueblo. These are not in Madrid. The big trend with 20, 30 something folks is they're trying to get people out into these pueblos, little towns that are depopulated that you heard about in that previous video. These are houses that are pretty run down. They are old. They are in pueblo. They're in little rural towns, small towns, but nobody wants them. Para reformar, to remodel. Reformar is reform, but that means you're remodeling. So these houses are for sale in small towns. They're kind of out of the way. They're not in the middle of the big town or the big city at all. And they have to be remodeled to be habitable.
No estaba en mis planes una tercera
It
opción,
was not in my plan.
pero sin duda, transformar una casa de más de 100 años en un estudio creativo suena bastante interesante.
This was not an option I had thought about, but you know what? Doing this thing, getting a house that's more than 100 years old and turning it into a creative studio, this could be kind of interesting. It could be kind of interesting, bastante interesante.
Además de que es una casa. Podría
And besides, it's a house.
usarlo de estudio y para vivir.
And podría usarlo, here's a modal verb. You could, and here's a hypothetical. Not could you do something for me politely, but, I could use it as a studio and a place to live.
Hice cálculos y con lo que me costaban 3 años de alquiler, me podría comprar la casa.
And, I did some calculations, and with 3 years of renting, I could theoretically, me podría comprar, I could buy myself a whole house for what it would cost to rent it.
Así que creo que a largo plazo salía bastante rentable.
So that I think that long term, a largo plazo is long term. Long term, it would turn out to be, it turned out to be pretty suitable for me.
Además de que cumplía todos los requisitos.
And it fulfilled it checked off all the boxes. Cumplía todos los requisitos. It fulfilled all the prerequisites, but it checked off all the boxes. We would probably say precio, diseño, libertad.
Teníamos opción ganadora.
We got a winning option here. Yeah.
Y ahora solo hacía falta encontrar la casa de pueblo de mis sueños.
And now I just had to find the house of my dreams.
Casi nada, vaya.
Just about nothing out there.
Encontrar la casa perfecta se siente como un pirata que busca un tesoro perdido.
Finding the perfect house feels a little bit like a pirate in search of hidden treasure.
A veces era desesperante y no veía al final.
Sometimes you feel desperate. Sometimes it was desperate. And you couldn't see, the end point. You couldn't see the finishing point, yeah?
Pero invirtiendo mucho tiempo y echándole ganas, por fin
But investing a lot of time and putting in a lot of effort and
encontré lo que
desire,
buscaba.
I found what I was looking for, and X marks the spot. There, she's being creative there. 8 meses de búsqueda después, 8 months of searching. Encontré la casa de
Primera vez
pueblo.
que voy a abrir la casa. A ver, lo que no sé qué llave será.
I don't know. No sé qué llave será. I don't know which key this might be because they probably gave her a whole handful of keys. Which key is this?
Tener mi propio espacio siendo joven y artista no es nada fácil.
Having my own space, being a young person and an artist, is not at all easy.
En la gran ciudad las cosas están muy caras y es difícil
In the big city, things are super expensive,
conseguir algo decente.
and it's hard to get something decent.
Ya está, chicos. Bueno, pues ya está, ya tengo mi casa.
Yo iba en busca de un lugar donde vivir y crear.
I was off in search of a place to live and
Y
create.
creo que una casa para reformar es como un lienzo en blanco. Digamos que
And this lienzo is a canvas. I think finding a place to remodel is like having a blank canvas. Like an artist has a blank canvas. There's nothing on it. You're starting from square one, yeah?
es un proyecto creativo en sí.
Let's say
Y a ver, tampoco
it's
quiero idealizarlo. Esto va a ser todo un
Yeah.
reto.
Let's just say it's a project in and of itself. And I don't want to, on the other hand, I don't want to idealize it. It's going to be a real challenge. Okay. So it's going to be fun to have this blank slate, but it's also going to be hard. Un reto. It's going to be todo un reto. Totally a challenge.
Pero bueno, dicho esto, Bienvenidos
said that,
a esta nueva aventura.
Tengo una casa.
yeah, welcome to the new adventure.
Bienvenidos a la reforma de una casa de 100 años.
Welcome to the remodeling of the 100-year-old house. Yay. Okay, so the next, the first video you had talked about towns that were not populated, people were moving out, dying off. The second one is who's moving into all those towns that are, yeah, depopulated. Why and why? It's her. It's people like her who don't have a whole lot of money, right? The young people who need someplace they can't afford, and she has a purpose for this house. So the next segment para la semana que viene for this coming week is going to be her step one of what she's doing to remodel this house. So it's longer than this one. You want to give yourself enough time to listen to it. She does go a little bit faster, but a lot of it, because you're going to have the visual prompts of what she's doing, will probably be easy to understand as you can see what she's doing as she goes along. ¿Sí? ¿Todo bien? All good? Todo bien. Es un cuento. This is going to be a story for her. Es un cuento y ustedes van a ver la primera parte de la renovación, de reformar, de construir de nuevo, building it all over again, que construir de nuevo una casa. Y no es una casa muy grande, es bastante pequeña, sí, pero va a ser suya. It's going to be all hers. So, todo bien. All good?
Sí, gracias.
Okay.
Es-
Bien. Okay. Entonces, nos vemos. I will I will cobble together some conversation things that can go along with that coming video for the coming week. ¿Sí? Bien. Para hablar de lo que ella hizo, talk about what she did, para hablar de situaciones parecidas, similar situations, sí, en su experiencia de renovar cosas, de construir, de arreglar, fixing, sí, de arreglar cosas con las habitaciones. ¿Sí? ¿Todo bien? Bien,
Sí,
bien, bien. Magnífico.
Sí,
Ok,
gracias.
entonces, sí, nos vemos la semana que viene. We'll see you guys next week.
Adiós.
Sí, espero que tengan muy buena semana y buen fin de...